Hey guys, so this is Teaching My Friends to Cook is our working title. Who knows if we'll keep it. This is where I'm gonna show my friends how to make some of the food that I've learned how to cook. I've been cooking for a long time, and it's a hobby of mine. You know, I hear from a lot of people that cooking is just too hard. A lot of people eat out too much. A lot of people think that they can't cook, and that's not the case. It's just you gotta learn you gotta learn the groundwork, basically. And not that I'm an expert. I've never, cooked fine dining or anything like that, but this is the groundwork, what I'm gonna show you. A lot of this stuff is gonna sound like common sense kind of stuff, and a lot of the stuff maybe you already do, but then again, there are a lot of people that don't. Like keeping this stupid towel on my shoulder. Instead of going back to wash your hands every single time, you can just use a towel to wipe whatever off your hands. It's gonna get grimy, but when you're trying to cook, it's time and heat, basically. So the more time that you're wasting going back and forth to the sink, something's gonna burn. You know what I mean? Another thing is, couldn't find my apron, so I just wore a tie-dye shirt, because if you get something on a tie-dye shirt, it's just like extra tie-dye. I don't know. I think the longest time I've spent in a kitchen was in pizza kitchens, 2 of them. So today we're gonna go over a very basic pizza dough. That's not just for pizza. You can use it for a lot of stuff, and I'll probably, go on about that later. But we're just gonna go over a really simple pizza dough, and then I'm going to make mozzarella cheese, which I'm kind of scared about. So I was looking at the recipe for mozzarella cheese, and it calls for rennet, and it turns out either I just can't find it, or none of the stores in this town carry rennet. So we're gonna try it. We're gonna try making cheese without a main ingredient, I guess. But that brings me to a really good point, that cooking is all about experimentation and improvisation. I've heard it both ways, but you have to just be able to think on your feet, and don't be afraid to experiment. You're gonna cook shit food sometimes. You're gonna eat a meal that is just garbage, but it helps you to appreciate food. It helps you to, learn from your mistakes, essentially. So that's what we're doing today. So yeah, we're gonna start making very simple pizza dough. This is essentially the same recipe that I used 5 days a week, full time, for, I wanna say, 4 years total when I was working in pizza kitchens. So we're gonna start with flour. I know people love to be health conscientious, but wheat flour does not cut it. If you wanna do some whole wheat pizza, always do half white, half wheat. I mean, you could do whole wheat if you're like a masochist or something, but it's gonna fucking suck. So this is just, I don't even remember the brand. This is just white bleached flour. This is about 550 grams. Oh, also, this is really important. If you don't own a scale, get a scale, because a lot of, especially for baking, a lot of these recipes will say cups and grams. You always want to go with the weight measurement. At least in my experience, it's a lot more accurate. You're gonna get a more consistent result because of differences in brands of flour or whatever dry goods you're trying to measure by volume. So anyways, just get a scale. Also, all my buds, if you guys get scales, if you want to, you just find a waist-high countertop, you put your junk on there, we can measure it. You put it in grams, measure it in grams. I got a spreadsheet going already. We'll put your weight in grams. Well, how should we do that? Yeah, we'll put your weight in grams. Well, I'll put $10 in the pot. Guy with the lowest weight gets the pot. Because he needs it. Anyways, 550 grams of flour going in. It's okay if you spill a little. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Stuff like this, if you spill a little bit of flour, it's no big deal. No recipe needs to be exactly precise. There's always certain degrees of error. So I'm using a stand mixer. You don't have to use a stand mixer, but it's gonna be a pain in the ass if you mix this by hand. You can use a wooden spoon to start, and then just use a bunch of flour in your hands and then knead it by hand. This just makes it way easier. So 550 grams of flour, roughly 5 grams of salt and 5 grams of sugar. This is already mixed. The sugar is what's gonna feed the yeast, and then salt for flavor, of course. If you ever had dough without salt, you know how terrible that is. This is just 2 tablespoons of oil, traditionally olive oil, but fuck tradition, we're using avocado oil, because that's what I had. It all serves the same purpose. You could even use butter if you wanted to, I guess. 1.5 cups of what would normally be water. This is obviously not water. This is actually Seattle cider semi-sweet. So this is just gonna add a little bit more sugar, just maybe a little more flavor. I don't know, I just felt like having fun. You know, when you look up recipes for dough or yeast leavened doughs, it always says 2¼ teaspoons of, I think, yeah, 2¼ teaspoons of yeast. And every single time I wonder, well, how much yeast is in a packet of yeast? There's exactly 2¼ teaspoons in this. So, yeah. Okay, and we're gonna just mix that up. And the cider was in the cooler when I bought it, so I went ahead and warmed it up a little bit, just in the microwave for maybe like 15 or 20 seconds. If you do look up a lot of like yeast leaven recipes, they'll say to put the yeast in the warm liquid for about 10 minutes or whatever. You don't have to do that. Once we mix this dough, we're just gonna let it sit, and it's gonna leaven either way, whether you let that sit or not. We'll just let this go for, I mean, essentially the longer the better to a point. I mean, if you don't wanna go, I would say more than 10 minutes would be excessive. You just want enough to get that gluten stretch. That's what's gonna give you like the chewy kind of dough. While that's mixing, I'll show you what this is gonna turn out to be. So this is a whole tray of 10 ounce dough balls that I made. And I made these this morning. I had them on the counter for maybe half an hour, and they weren't quite this big, but I moved them into the fridge, and they'll keep, I think the word is proofing? I'm not sure. They'll keep leavening like this. And it almost doesn't look like how you think it should. But once you pull these out, and I'll just do one right now because I've got extra anyways. So what you do is once this comes out, you cut it into whatever size you want. You can actually turn that whole thing into a dough ball, but you want to spray it with oil. Don't buy the disposable, spray oils. You get I bought this for like 89 cents. It's like a travel spray bottle. What would you even use this for if you're traveling? I don't even know why they sell this. Anyways, I put some of that same avocado oil in here. You can just spray it on, it's super easy. So when I made these dough balls, they each had like 4 to 6 inches between them, but they proof up so much. But you just pull this thing out, and oh man, it smells so good. So you just like cup your hands like this, and you're just trying to turn this into a frisbee or a UFO, and you're just squeezing all the air out. I'm gonna turn this off while you're just squeezing all the air out. So at this point, you don't want to like refold it. I'll go over how to make a dough ball, and I'm not the best at it. My pizzas always end up with like a thin spot or two. Then again, it's okay. It doesn't ruin the pizza. But anyways, after it's proofed like this, you don't want to go and try to put it back into a dough ball. You just want to leave it flat. In my experience, if you try to like curl this up and form it back into a ball, you're gonna end up with it's not gonna be as easy to throw the dough when you throw it. So like this one, I'll just go ahead and get some more saran wrap, and we'll just put that in its own. Another kitchen tip, every kitchen I've worked in, you always have a bleach bucket. So what I do is I just keep a bottle of bleach and a towel, And it's just so easy to clean as you go, rather than just like keep dirtying a new surface, or you know. So when you're mixing that bleach, if it stains your clothes, or if it bleaches your clothes, I guess, there's too much in there. There's actually like test strips that you can get that'll tell you if you've got the right amount of bleach. But it's like, for a bottle like this, it's 1 part bleach to 32 parts water. So if you get a spray bottle, it'll show you the water volume. But basically it's just a splash. It's just enough to like smell it, which it sounds weird, but okay. So that's one dough ball. Mixing this. This dough too. This dough will stay good for, you know, I don't know. You could probably freeze it. I've never tried it, but I'm gonna say it'll stay good for a couple of days. What you don't want to see are black spots on the dough. From what I remember, if you make dough and you see black spots on top, that's the dead yeast, and that's a result of water that's not warm enough. You can still use it and it tastes fine. It's just not going to, it's not going to rise as much, if, you know, from what I recall. I'm gonna shut this off. This is perfect, and this honestly makes me nostalgic for when I worked in those pizza kitchens. But what you're going for is like a supple dough. There's a lot of dough recipes that I've tried and experimented with where it's a really wet dough, and that's fine. I'm just showing what I've done before. So this dough is what I would call tacky, but not sticky. I've got, you know, barely any on my fingers. This stuff is the stuff that I worked with for years, and I think it's the best. But that's not to say you should not experiment and, you know, add more liquid, or what is that? I think that was actually a piece of basil. I've been making dough. Obviously you saw I've made like 70 ounces of dough all day. And one of the things I'm going to showcase is this basil. Oh, I almost said infused. That's such a fucking God. You know, I love cooking, but I fucking hate the, like, for lack of better words, hipster cooking culture online. As soon as somebody says something is infused, I turn my ears off because I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just getting angry. So, anyways, this is a very supple dough. On autopilot, I just started making this into a dough ball. Again, I'm not the best at this, but let me get some flour and I'll show you how to make smaller dough balls. I'm actually out of flour, so I literally used an entire, how big was that bag? 2-pound bag of flour? So I'm just going to use a tiny bit of potato starch, which I've never done before. So again, we got to experiment a little bit and see what works. I just know this will keep it from sticking to the counter and all that. So we're going to turn the scale on. I've also got this guy, which we just called a dough scraper. I don't know what it's called. These are probably like $6 or $10. It's got, it's actually got it's got a ruler on it, so you can weigh your junk, and we can also measure it. So guys, pick one of these up. I'll put it on the spreadsheet. For a, let's see, so for like what you would call a medium pizza, is usually like 14 inches, somewhere thereabouts. You do about 20 ounces of dough. I'm just gonna do like 10-inch pizzas, so I'm gonna go 10 ounces, and those are the same ones that I have proofing in the fridge. So you can use this guy. You don't have to, you can just tear this off, but I'm gonna use this guy and just cut some of this off. Oh shit, that's in grams. There we go, now we're in ounces. 8.7, this is a really fun game where you, 10 on the dot, second try, got it. All right, so once you get your 10 ounces, this is one of those things where you just have to do it. I'm gonna show you and you can research it, but you just have to do it. Basically, this is how I hold my hands, got my fingertips underneath, and you're kind of spreading the edges underneath of this ball, right? And then you'll feel it become a little more, not dense, but compact, I guess. And that's usually when I switch over, and basically you're gonna curl the edges in to themselves, just like this. And you wanna kinda Just want to slap it a little bit. You know, once you get it into that general ball shape, you really want to drop it and then slap it some more. What you don't want is like, let me just show you. So like where two pieces of dough meet, if I take this and I fold it over, if I don't press that together, those pieces of dough, they're not gonna bake right. I mean, not that it won't taste good or, you know, it's just not what you, it's gonna take away from the consistency of the pizza. So you want to compact it like this, try and make sure you're pushing all that dough together. And then that's a 10-ounce dough ball. I think there's at least 3 of these in here. Let's do a couple more. And again, I am not the best at this. I watched a couple of people do this for years who are way better at it than me, but it's still gonna get you good pizza. 9.7. All right, so we got 3 10-ounce dough balls and almost three more ounces from, I think that would be 3 cups of flour and the liquid. It'll yield 3 individual pizzas, or you could stick these all together and probably make like a 18-inch pizza, or like a kind of thicker crust 16-inch at least. My favorite thing, besides making pizza with this dough, well, I guess 2 favorite things. You can make fry bread. I don't know if, well, you guys know what fry bread is, or at least Indian tacos, elephant ears. It's all pizza dough. It's all the same exact dough. There's no variation whatsoever. It's just how you cook it. I've already prepared some of this same dough. Holy shit. Wow, this is like a variation of that same dough recipe that I made just now, but I took like a whole package of like that pre-packaged fresh basil that they sell at the store. I took that and I chopped it up and I added that to it. Yeah, without trying to sound like a douchebag, this is some basil infused pizza dough. It smells pretty good. So what we're gonna do is not make a pizza with this. I'm gonna show you guys how to make garlic knots really quick. With pizza dough, you might see a lot of people, I see it in forums every once in a while online, where people are like, oh, I like to add, I don't know, like garlic powder to their pizza dough. I don't think of myself as an elitist, but I just think at that point, like, the toppings go on the pizza, not in the dough, if that makes sense. Not to say you can't do it, but in this case, I put some basil in this dough because I knew that I wanted to make some garlic knots, which if you're not familiar, it's basically like a different version of garlic bread. Oh, you know what? I'll actually take this opportunity to show you guys how I throw a pizza crust. You take it out. You kind of, that one I hadn't formed. That one was just sitting in a bowl. So this isn't going to turn out as well as one that just sat as a ball, or at least as far as I know. I could be dead wrong on that. But essentially, you just flatten it out. You know, kind of do this with it when it's still in a ball shape. You get it down on your surface. What I'm doing here is just a little bit of that, you know? It's what she likes. So you're just sort of flattening the dough. You're not pressing with your fingertips. You're using this flat surface, and you're just gonna flatten out the edges first. Get a little more of this starch because it's starting to stick to me. Again, never used potato starch for this before. I don't think it's gonna hurt, but yeah. So now we have this this like UFO kind of shape, right? What you want to do now is use your fingertips. Again, not like this. You're patting it with the pads of your fingers, rather, and you're just pressing it out, kind of feeling around where the thicker spots are. And then you can start this, once we get some more dry lube on there, you can start pressing it out. You can already see the imperfections in this, which is not the way I was taught to do this, but I really don't care. Pizza is one of those things where like, burnt pizza is still better than no pizza. We're just gonna flatten this out. This potato starch works really nice, actually. This is nice and smooth. So then another thing you can do, well, I'll go as if I was just making this into a pizza. So what you want to do is, you know, fold it over onto your hands, and then this is what I'm doing with my hands when the dough is over it, just holding it like this. The dough just goes over here. So I'll pick it up, and you're letting gravity do the work. You're pulling a tiny bit between your two hands, as if there are more hands. I don't know. So that's pretty good. And I don't know if you can see that in the lighting. You can see there's a couple of thinner spots. That doesn't really matter. And then you can spin it if you want to have fun. 1, 2, just like that. Just like a little baby. Oh no, this is getting pretty thin. I don't want to bust out any old tricks, you know. If you want to practice that though, oh, see, look, I tore my crust. That's okay. It does not matter. There's no God and everything is subjective. If you want to practice that dough throwing thing though, just get just a towel, maybe smaller than this. This is kind of a big one. Well, no, this would work. Anyways, you want to get a towel, just like a cotton towel, soak it with water and wring it out, and it gives you enough weight that you can start to toss it and spin it around and stuff like that. But what we're gonna do with this is turn it into garlic knots. Preheat the oven really quick. I have a pizza stone, I'm just not using it today because most people don't. With a pizza stone, it just takes a little less time. The auto set is like 415, so that's what I'm gonna set it to. I'm just gonna show you how to cut these. It doesn't really matter, like normally when we would make these, we would try and shape the dough into a square or a rectangle because it just makes it more efficient. It doesn't matter though, you can just take this random edge, you know, you have this like, I don't know what you would call that, but sort of a random shape of dough. You just stretch it out a little bit. You're gonna use 2 fingers, and you're basically just gonna wrap it around your fingers and then literally tie the dough in a knot. And today I'm just using parchment paper. Normally what we would do is like take some starch, you dip the bottom of it in starch, and you just put it directly on the pizza screen. Also, if you want to cook a lot of pizza, get a pizza screen. They're pretty killer for cooking pizza. Not required at all, but you can take all sorts of goofy shapes from this, and as long as you can form it, oh, that ripped a little bit. As long as you can form it correctly, you're literally just tying it in a knot. Size variation does not matter. You're just gonna have ones that are chewier and ones that are crispier. And that's, to me, that's like the best. I don't wanna eat a food that's like so consistently textured that it all just tastes the same, you know what I mean? There's another way that I used to make these garlic knots. Instead of tying it in a complete knot, this is gonna be a big boy. What I would do is make these little like, so you cross it over, just like the other one, but instead of pulling the end through, you just sort of tuck both those up in through the middle. So it's more of like a rosebud. There we go. So this will make a lot of garlic knots. I mean, we've already got 8, and this is like not even a quarter of the dough, I think. So I'll have to do a couple of different batches. So yeah, these are garlic knots. This is 1 full tray. Obviously that whole piece of dough was, I don't know, that's like 1/3. And you can see these are all varying sizes. Like I said, it really doesn't matter. What we're gonna do is stick these in the oven. These are for tonight, so we're gonna par bake them. So what I'm gonna do is stick them in there at 415, I think, and I'm just gonna let them sit in there until they get kind of golden brown on the outside. You basically want them to cook all the way through, but not cook completely, if that makes any sense. Because what we're gonna do tonight is basically stick them on this same pizza tray, and we're going to reheat them in the oven, and then we're gonna toss them with a garlic oil that I'm also gonna show you how to make. Actually, we can do that right now if you want. So for garlic knots, you need garlic oil. This is the shit. Normally this is olive oil, but like I said, hail Satan. I'm gonna use avocado oil because that's what I got. So this is maybe a cup, a little more than a cup of avocado oil, and then I tossed in some coconut oil too, because I feel like the coconut oil is gonna go well with the basil. Again, this is getting outside the boundaries of traditional pizza, you know, using alternative oils like that, but like I said earlier, fuck tradition. So I've got about like 2 dozen garlic cloves, something like that, 1.5 cups of oil. Also, because I mean, kind of a glutton. We're gonna use some ghee too, which is clarified butter. You can make this at home. Maybe we'll just do a video on ghee. That would be fun. Oh man, smell this stuff.
Oh yeah.
It kind of smells like, it kind of smells like the popcorn they put on movie theater.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it smells like the butter they put on movie theater
Right.
popcorn. But this is just butter with the proteins removed, if I remember correctly. But we'll go over that. So I put a lot of garlic in there, so I'm gonna fill this to the fill line. It's already gonna be pretty rich with the oil, but I just wanna add the butter for a little more flavor. I'm just having fun. So we just stick this on here. Just gonna turn this on. I think we're good. Ooh. Oh, that's sauce. This is pretty thick. Normally it doesn't turn out this thick. I think it's because I used a lot more garlic than you normally would. I think the amount of garlic I used, you would normally put in, like normally in the restaurant, we would take that same amount of garlic, fill this with olive oil, and then blend it. So this is really heavy on the garlic, but I'm kind of nasty, so I like it. So what we're gonna do is save this, just set this aside. Oh yeah, those knots are already poofing up. Just in case we don't get to show this, basically what you do is you take your garlic knots out, you put them in whatever plate. You know, we would use like a paper, what do you call that? A paper liner in a basket. Set those in there and you just take a brush, a normal brush, a non-silicone brush, I don't know what the fuck to call it. A normal brush works better, it absorbs more of the oil, but this will work. You just sort of dab it on there. Serve it with marinara, ranch dressing, whatever. And you know, I put the basil in there, but you can put anything in there. We made, I didn't like them all the time, but they were pretty good every once in a while, but we made garlic knots where while you were mixing the dough, you tossed in pepperoni with them, and so it gives it like a more savory flavor, I guess. A little saltier too. But yeah, these are those dough balls from earlier. I couldn't find another vessel, so I just put them in this glassware. Plenty of oil, and I'll just cover that with saran wrap. Like I said, they'll be good 2 or 3 days at least. I'm just gonna give these to somebody because I've got too much pizza dough at this point. All right, so these are done enough for now, and that wasn't long at all. Look, you can see they're kind of just brown on the tops. Even though they're different sizes, they're all about the same height. So the cook should be somewhat consistent as far as browning. But like I said, you're gonna have like crispier bits and chewier bits. So we're just gonna take like this one, that one, this one, and that little guy. We're just gonna do 4 of them for now. So what we're gonna do now, we take this, oh God, ooh. Take some of this manna from heaven and you just put it on the garlic knots. Another reason I like butter is I feel like it's a little more viscous than the oil, and not only for the richness of the flavor, but you're also, it's gonna stick to the garlic knots a little more too. So put however much of that on there. Last thing, people are going to poo-poo this, but I swear to God, this non-refrigerated Parmesan cheese, this is unless you want to try it in a gourmet style, this is the only thing you should put on garlic knots, is this super powdery, crumbly stuff. I know it has cellulose in it. It's not actually 100% cheese, but it's something about the texture and the flavor. You can try crumbling Parmesan to get it really fine. Maybe let it sit in the fridge just on a paper towel or something and let it dry out and then crumble it. But this stuff, oh my God. These are like too hot to eat. This is amazing. Oh, look at that, yeah. Perfect cook. Oh my God. It's nice and spicy with the garlic and the basil. Shai, do you want to try this? I got a garlic knot for you. What do you have?
It's something from the library.
Oh, cool.
Oh, spicy.
I guess I put too much garlic in it. Here, try it again.
It's still spicy.
It's too spicy. spicy? I thought you liked spicy food.
I do still, but I only like a little bit spicy.
A little. It's not super spicy. It's the kind of spice that goes away really quick. Is that better? Pretty good, huh? Alright, high five. Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. That concludes this episode. Pizza dough, garlic knots. I think next time, I mean, I got to make this cheese today because I need it for this evening, but I think maybe next time we'll go over the cheese. Yes, what? You want to squish them?
Yeah.
In a minute. We're going to use those to make the mozzarella.
I just want to squish them so we can still make it is still now.
I'm trying to do my outro.
Dad, I want some of that to drink.
Some of this?
Yeah.
This is the garlic oil, buddy. Smell it.
I thought it was a smoothie.
Anyways, I don't know. Next episode, what do you want to do? Should we do the cheese? Maybe we can do, I don't know. We'll think about it. I'm going to eat the rest of these because they're too good. Do you want any more, Shia?
Yeah.
You do?
I want someone to play.
Oh, all right. All right, I'll see you guys later.